I surprised you with another one this morning, didn't I? I surprised myself. I didn't plan on doing this, but I am going to hop on here real quick. I don't have a very tight thing to talk about today like I did yesterday, but I do have a couple things that I do want to make sure that I get out there, because to me, if I get these thoughts out of my head and into other people's heads, then I can get them out of my head. So let me get comfortable. Let me know if the connection starts to get weird. I'm going to go sit in the spot that I think the connection is nice. Thank you for joining, everybody. Really appreciate you taking you guys' time. I know that time is valuable. Now, it's the morning, and what I do in the mornings, pretty much every morning, I have a routine to get my head on straight, because when you're working with dogs, when you're working with animals, you don't want to go start the day frustrated or anxious or anything really. You want a very calm, composed. There's a mindset. There's this mindset that I try to get into every day before I work with the dogs, and that's what I do. So let me tell you about that before I get into the message of there is a concept. I always try to give you guys a concept, some little nidbit, and I'm going to give you that. But first, I want to show you what my morning looks like. I get my coffee. I see Julie and Jesse off for the day. They just left, and then I sit down, and I might read a little bit, or I might just think. Let these concepts do what they're going to do up there. Very important time for me. Very important. Today I got this book with me, and I'm going to share it with you because, a lot of people do ask me what books am I reading, and I don't read a whole lot of books, but when I do, they're the good ones, because they're usually recommended to me by somebody who knew what they were doing. And this is that case. Gary Wilkes is a trainer who I admire for the knowledge that he has acquired over his career. He is a legend within the industry, a very pivotal member of the industry. And he recommended this book, which is called The Effects of Punishment on Human Behavior. And I just love this book because, unlike a lot of the books of this caliber that you try to read, you can actually understand what they're saying. It's not too terrible with the language, and things are explained so clearly that it'll inspire you to start rethinking your knowledge of what you know behaviorally and start to really get it sound. Okay, so that's little something there if you're interested in that type of thing. That's the book that I'm using right now. And it's amazing how when you have a filter on your brain, like a lot of dog trainers do, you start to see things in movies and books and life, and all of a sudden it's reminding you of dog training. So there's that. Got the morning routine. I need that. I also need a nightly routine to decompress, to get the stress that I have acquired throughout the day off. Right? I suppose this is kind of like personal development type stuff. But I find that if I don't have that time at night to decompress and think about the events of the day, I carry that with me to the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and by the time the end of the week comes, forget it, right? So I clean my slate at night if I can get the time, and in the morning I can fill myself up with things that get me ready for the day, or clear the head even more. Whatever I need, I give myself that time. Okay, aside from that, here's the nugget that I'm going to give you guys today about where the way I've been explaining the program lately. I find it interesting. These are not 100% my concepts. I mean, they are, but I'm influenced, like I said, by books like this, by people who talk about this stuff. You tend to just hear it for years, and then eventually something happens and a little concept comes out. And here's one for you to think of. When it comes to training a dog, and the dog comes in with, you guys know dogs that come into training programs like this, you see it. They don't listen well. And the way that I like to look at it is, this program really, like people know, gives the dog rules that they understand and boundaries. So if you want to get abstract about it, which is how my brain works, I think about, you put the dog, behaviorally speaking, in a little box, which I can't make because I'm hanging on to the phone, but a box. And that's a boundary. And this is behaviorally speaking, that is. And you say, all the behaviors outside of out of this box are off limits. And if you try to go access them, you're going to hit the walls of the box, which results into a correction. Okay, so you can imagine that. The dog's living at home, and they're in the Wild West. There are no boundaries. There's no walls up keeping them from doing behaviors. If they want to get on the couch, they get on the couch. If they want to bark, they bark. They do whatever, behaviorally speaking, whatever they want, whatever works. They come here, we start putting a box around them, behaviorally speaking. We start to say, yeah, pulling, yeah, that's outside of the behaviors that we want you doing. Barking, that's also one of them. We start to do this, put up these boundaries. And if you literally, for me, my mind does see it like this. It helps me understand the concept. It's like a behavioral box. We whatever you can't do is outside of the box. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The important part is how a dog reacts to these restrictions. All right? Some dogs are going to walk up to that box, bump their head, sit down and be like, oh, okay, guess I can't go that way. And that dog's going to be easier to train because that dog, you're going to say no to the pulling. They're going to say, okay, then what? And you say heel. And they say, okay, that's a great temperament. Easy to work with, right? Same program, same box, different temperament. The dog goes up and bumps into the wall for the first time, which is the boundary, which is me saying, don't do this behavior. And then they're like, this has worked every single time up until now. So what do they start doing? They bump their head on the wall again. You can use the example of trying to rush out the door and we correct and put them back in. Nope, that behavior is no longer allowed. Now this dog, because of its temperament, you got to remember, it's just like people. Some people are calm, cool, and collective, and they see problems and they let it roll. And then there's other people that get really, uptight about it, frustrated quick, right? Same with dogs. Now this dog gets frustrated. What the heck, man? I'm always able to do these behaviors. So now they start beating their head off the wall, right? Beating on the wall, trying to break it down. That is a dog that what we call kickback. That is a dog who is denying these types of restrictions from a human, behaviorally speaking. It's not physical. The way that we're training is the dog is allowed to move and make choices. We are just able, because of the e-collar, we're able to give consequences for behaviors that we don't like. And for a trainer, the important part is, obviously you understand this concept, but to know that what you're looking for is how the dog reacts after being put into this box behaviorally. How do they react? Do they just submit to it and just say whatever? Some dogs do. Literally, I won't see those dogs, but there's dogs out there, it's one and done. One and done. They go up to the edge, they find the boundaries, they stop messing with it. But there's going to be other dogs that are going to keep messing with that boundary, right? So there's your little tidbit for the day. I told you I'd give you it. And that's just the way that I've been thinking about it lately, and it's really fun because we deal with different temperaments, and that's what I'm concerned with. How is the dog going to behave once they get into an environment where there's physical corrections for the wrong behaviors? That's where you see the part of the animal, the reason why they're here, okay? The owner might have never experienced this dog having a big blow-up fit like it might here on day one because it hits the end of the leash and it's getting frustrated that there's a boundary now. Literally, that's what it is. The dog is frustrated because this behavior has been able to take place anytime they want, and now you're saying no to it. The dog might have never done that at home because the owner had never restricted them in that way, right? So now we see all of the stuff that the owner kind of knew. This dog's got some stuff under the hood. We need to go bring it to training, right? We see those dogs, so it gets a little worse before it gets better because they're going to go bang their head up against the boundary, right? They're going to go try to fight the system. And then you get these other dogs. They're just sweet dogs. They just need to be trained up. And they find the boundary, you show them the boundary, and they stop messing with it immediately, okay? Same system, different dogs, all right? Here's the thing, though. Works on all of them. They all, whether they commit to us in our program on day 1 or 2 or week 1 or 2, they always do, okay? So that's what it is. I mean, that's what domestication is. If you think about it, it's that box I was telling you about, the behavioral box with boundaries, literally 4 walls. Any behavior outside of those are off limits without consequence, we have them. It's called being in society. I'll tell you what, I act a lot different when I'm in a restaurant than I do in the woods. Behaviorally speaking, like I might, just not trying to be gross here, but I might burp really loud in the woods if I'm alone. I know, it's gross. But behaviorally, because there are consequences socially and I'm aware of them, I will alter my behavior, hopefully, if I'm a gentleman, while I am in the restaurant. Okay? So, thinking like this helps me view the dogs and the program appropriately and allows me to stay unemotional. This is important. While I'm working with the dog to change its behavior, to change the dog's response. Now, you've seen the first problem. The dog, let's say the dog that gives us kickback, the dog that fights the authority. The problem is they're fighting the authority. The first thing they need to learn is how to listen and stop questioning whether or not they should, right? If a human is talking to them, they should listen. That is lesson number 1 at Julie's Canine Academy for all of these dogs. And some dogs are going to take 30 seconds and we move on from that conversation. The other dogs are going to take 3 days to a week, right? And then they commit and we're all good. But every dog does. And once they do, they do. It's just their life now. Now here's where it gets crazy. Now they're going back home. Now they're going back home from here. They've already adapted here. They're already doing phenomenal. We have all the videos out there. Everybody's watching this dog do great. Now when they go home, that behavioral box that we're talking about, the program that we taught them and taught them to live within so that they can have a successful life, that has to be implemented at home. If they're released into the Wild West, they will become hooligans again by nightfall. You know what I'm saying? Because dogs go by environment. And they're going to look around, they're going to read the room, see who's in the room, and act accordingly, right? So, this is how it works. Dogs adapt to whatever environment. They're one of the most adaptable creatures on the planet, right? So, coming to live with Julie's Canine Academy, there's an adjustment period. And then they adjust. And then they live accordingly. And they live well because what do? They adapted like dogs do. Make them adapt to your environment, with your rules, with the way that you want to live with a dog. Have high expectations, set those rules, make sure you know how to give a consequence. Your dog will adapt. They might kick back, and this is where people say, oh no, this training made my dog like this. No, your dog's temperament is one of, I get very frustrated if you don't allow me to do what I want to do. That's what you get. So when you actually try to implement these things, you're going to see a fight. And let's talk about the fight. Guys, the fight's the healthiest thing that could possibly ever happen between you and your dog. With a dog with that personality, if that dog wants to fight your authority, let's do it. And then let's let them wear themselves out, find out it didn't work, and continue to implement the program. The dog will adapt. Okay? But that's why I think of things I have these abstract ways of viewing it. I have an understanding of the behavior. I have an understanding of the old literature, which helps me tremendously. The knowledge is out there for you. You can literally learn what Pavlov knows if you go and read his book and then go implement it. Okay? Now, I told you on these little things, I go all over the place in the morning. So I should have did what I did yesterday, told you the topic so somebody could hold me accountable to stay on the topic, because the brain just keeps going. It just keeps going, especially in the mornings for me. So, we domesticate the dog. That's all that box is. We all got them. There's behaviors that are absolutely off limits if you live in society. So let's domesticate our dogs further. And yes, there's going to be a fight. That's what I wanted to talk about, the fight. The fight. Let's talk about putting a dog on a leash. The dog pulls. The dog's 4 years old. It's been pulling for 4 years. It's worked for 4 years. They get dropped off at Julie's Canine Academy. They get the tools on. They try to pull. There's a correction. Okay? They stop. This is literally how this goes, like every time. They stop. They go and do it again. Again, that's bopping your head off the wall. You're like, come on, this worked last time. They get frustrated. They fight. They find that they know, hey, dude, let me pull. What's going on here? They get frustrated. They go at the leash. They could go at me simply because I'm restricting them. And how dare I, as a human, tell them what to do. No humans ever told them what to do. So you watch this dog get frustrated, and you're like, okay, what's your temperament? Because that's going to inform, I'll know what your temperament is after this, right? They throw their little fit. They have the fight. The fight didn't work. It's important to have the fight if they're going to have it, so they can realize it doesn't work, so that we can move past that, so we can mature, so we can learn to be a companion, so they can learn to follow, and we can lead. Okay? There are certain dogs out there. I don't care who you are as a trainer. They are going to fight you. They are going to look at you, and they're going to say, prove it. It's in them. It's supposed to be there. You guys ever hear of survival of the fittest? You know, Mother Nature's trying to keep the species going, trying to keep the species strong. Dogs are designed, especially middle-of-the-road dogs, middle-of-the-pack dogs, to go up and test the leader every now and then. Just poke him. Just make sure he's still alive, because one day he's going to be a little too weak, right? Especially with the types of packs that we need to be studying, which is street dogs, all right? Not wolves, because that's usually mommy and daddy raising the kids, right? That's not what we do when we live with dogs. We're more like the street dogs that get together. They find a hierarchy based off from who can kick each other's butts, and they start, concerning themselves with resources, and they realize they're better off together. And you see these street dogs that you can study, watch their behavior, and there's a lot more. That's a lot more accurate as to how we live in our packs with dogs as humans. We're not from the same family. We don't have the same mommy and daddy. So therefore, we have to look at each other, size each other up, and go accordingly. Who gets first dibs on the food? Who gets first dibs on the resources? This is Mother Nature. This isn't something you can just ignore. So when you get a dog in front of you who's sizing you up, saying, who are you to put these restrictions on me? I am sorry to tell you, if you avoid that conversation, you avoid the fight, you will never help this dog the way he needs to be helped. That dog needs what's called the superior barrier. But I'm the superior barrier. Listen to me. The species barrier to be broken between human and dog. This is a thing. Back in the day, trainers knew this. They used to call it. They use this term that sounds awful, but it's not what you think. They used to call it breaking a dog. But what they mean is that barrier between one species learning how to follow another. That needs to happen. That needs to happen young. Ideally, imprinting on the dog would be great, but we don't do that because we get dogs for fun and we forget about that, and then a couple years later they're causing so much pain that we go find somebody like myself or colleagues of mine that are helping people like that. So, what was my main point? I don't know, and I told you that. Oh yes, the fight. So the fight's necessary, and it's going to look different with each dog, and they need to get out of their system, because that's them going up to the edge of the box, the behavioral box, and just beating their head off from it until they realize that wall's not moving. Let me turn around and see what else is in the room. And then they turn around, and here I am. Hi, I can help you with that problem. Let me show you how this works around here. And then when they commit to me, to listening to me and letting me help them, this is real stuff, guys. There's a ritual to this. You can use a gentle leader, whatever you feel. I don't use a gentle leader. Let me tell you the tools I use in a second, Corey. I will do that for you, okay? I do have tools that I use every single time. It doesn't matter if the dog's a puppy or an aggressive dog. I got the same setup, okay? This is why I shouldn't have answered that question, because I can't remember what I was saying. Oh yes, the fight. So they turn around and they accept that you're going to lead. Now, if you come shadow, you come watch us, you're going to see this happen. There is a ritual that I do with every dog to have the conversations I need to have with them about leadership and about becoming a follower and taking my direction. This is what I'm concerned with before the commands. This is far more important. This is mentality. This is state of mind. This is respect for humans, period. Species to species. They need to know this. And some dogs take that. That's a tough pill to swallow for some dogs, because they've been living their whole life doing whatever the hell they want. Okay? Boom. The concept's out there. A little sloppy, but, it's early. Okay, so the tools that we use. Check this out. All right, for an aggressive dog, let me just start there. Let's say I got a dog and then I'm like, this dog could eventually not receive leadership well, right? Because that's what happens when you're in this field. Slip lead. Do you know what a slip lead is? A slip lead it's like a traditional English lead. It's literally, I should grab one. It's literally just a rope that goes around the dog's neck, and as you pull it, it tightens, and as the tension releases, it loosens. This is the safest thing for you, because if a dog really directs its frustration out on you, which is much more rare than you might think, they tend to just redirect. They tend to just react, most of them, whatever's closest to them. So it's usually the leash. I can put pressure up if a dog comes at me aggressively to try to harm me. I can start cutting off the oxygen. The dog starts to realize that the oxygen is being cut off. They stop fighting. I let them back down. If they come back at me, we do it again. But they stop coming at you because the dog prioritizes breathing. And so they realize it doesn't work. That's the important part. The fight doesn't work, and at the end of the day, I'm still standing there saying, let's go, right? It's powerful. And then you put them in the kennel after an experience like this, and you let them soak on it and think about it, and then you bring them back out, and you feel a softer animal, an animal who's not ready as readily to be aggressive towards you because they've already tried to be aggressive towards you. And this trick about aggression, people think that if you correct a dog physically, they're going to be afraid of you. Let me explain something to you that you've never thought about, and after I say this, you'll never think of it the same. Okay? I promise you that. I never strike first. My dad taught me to never strike first. I do the same thing with dogs. If somebody throws a punch at me in my face, I will. Okay? The dog always tries to bite me first. That is important. They know that. They challenge me. They try to bite me. Anything I do after that as far as correction is not going to hurt our relationship because they know that they started the fight, and that's why I bit back. I didn't just randomly walk up to that dog because somebody told me it was a bad dog and just start correcting it. Yes, that will make the dog nervous of you. But if the dog is starting the fight, which is the case here all the time because they're frustrated, and he or she tries to bite you, and then you correct them, they're not afraid of you. They learn, because after the correction, they're sitting there and they're like, okay, don't attack him. What do I do then? I can't go that way because I hit the end of the leash. I can't attack him. So I'm just going to sit here. Here's the magic part. Are you ready for it? I let 30 seconds pass, and then I kneel on the ground, and the dog sees that as me saying, it's okay. I'm okay with I'm offering him to come over and patch things up. The dog comes over, sniffs me. I show a soft side of myself. A lot of the times this results in petting, and the bond is created. With serious dogs, that fight's going to happen day in and day out for the next 5 days, and then we'll get it. But with most dogs, 90-something% of them, there's that one fight, and then I lean down for the truce. They come over, and then this is the trust and respect part. They know, see, I'm not dangerous, but don't try to bite me. They're not afraid of me now. They're respectful of me. That is a big difference than somebody who goes up on a dog. Somebody says, hey, this is a bad dog over here because it's been bad at home. And I say, oh, yeah, you've been bad at home, have you? Wow. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. If the dog understands why it's being corrected, you have no explaining to do. The dog's not confused. The message is across, we move on. Okay? So the fight, that's all it is. Day one, usually, instantly, usually. Literally, like owner leaves, I have the leash, we got our tools on and stuff, then we go out for a walk, and the dog instantly goes into old behavior mode. The behavioral box of Julie's Canine Academy program is applied. Not at full force, but we start to show them that there's going to be consequences, teach them how to react to the consequences, and the dog's frustrated because we are restricting behaviors. So, depending on the dog's temperament, they will try to bite in that moment. Or flip out and go crazy. Or they don't, because it depends on the dog. And we react accordingly. But if a dog tries to strike at me and I correct them, they're less likely to strike at me. And I can do more work with them and expect more of them than anybody ever has ever before. I was the first human which is a lot of trainers like myself experience this, and it's a very magical thing. You're the first human to ever to break through the barrier, the species barrier, and to create an actual follower from this animal to a human. People don't know what that feels like. They just don't know what it feels like. And I'm convinced when shadow students come here, they just said, I just didn't know they didn't know what they felt like, these dogs. And when you can feel what a dog who is following you actually feels like, you'll never want anything else, and you'll never go back. You'll see dogs now when you go out into the world, and you're like, those are some disrespectful dogs, terribly. But they're cute, and they're not causing too much pain, but they're terribly disrespectful, and they don't listen. Nobody broke that barrier. Nobody had those conversations. They just bought it and fed it and pet it. And that's the result, right? It's not a companion, it's a pet. That's what you do with a pet. You pet it and maybe play some ball with it. A companion, now that's different. The world opens for the dog. The world opens for you. Thank you for coming in this morning. Thank you for joining. People joined so quick. They stayed. And I appreciate that. And that's why I came back this morning. So we got some good concepts out there. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm probably going to put this up on as a piece of, as like a post. You know how they let you save it to IGTV? I'll do that again so that we can rewatch it. And yeah, so start thinking about that. When you start thinking about because the thing is trainers there's a lot of dog trainers out there that are trying to avoid this fight. They are. And you know what? That dog's going to end up at a program like mine. And the owner's going to have to pay more money. Because you're not having that important conversation. It's not about the commands. That's why you think people are coming here because of the commands we teach. Everybody can teach these commands. It does have things to do with the commands, of course. But there's this other conversation that we have here that we're able to offer people. And that is really, when you say this dog feels good, this dog feels like amazing, I love this dog, it's because somebody had that conversation with that dog. Somebody broke the barrier. Somebody created a follower. And if you're not doing that, then you're not doing that. And the results will suffer. Okay? And I'm excited to go and continue to do it. I got a lot of work today to do. Gabby's coming down. She's bringing a dog that has not had any training yet. So we're doing day one together. So because I like to do this for Gabby and give her as much training and upkeep as I can. Thank you guys for this. Yes, the pet versus companion, there is a difference. People have different standards for the pets, and I have high standards for my dogs because I know it's capable, because I've seen it and I can produce it now. It's hard for me to be around a dog who is not that connected with humans and humans' way of living. The dogs tend to have good judgment if you live with them like this. They learn what you like and what you don't like, and you don't have to nag them anymore. I got a lot of stuff to talk about in the next videos. One of them is like trapping anxiety with the commands. There's some really, people Skype me a lot, and it's a lot of trainers, and there's a lot of like difficult questions. It's not your easy average questions that everyone knows the answer to. There's in-depth questions, and there's one that keeps coming up, and there is a solution to it. And basically, we started talking about it yesterday with the anxiety. We're going to finish it. I don't want to see, and I want to be able to educate people so they can see it. Don't trap anxiety within your commands, and we will talk about that, especially the heel command. Well, he's healing, but he's whining, and we'll talk about how to solve that. And the thing is once you trap it, it's so much harder to solve. So you just need to learn how to get rid of the anxiety before you start implementing that command, so you don't trap it in there. And I know that sounds confusing. Everything sounds confusing, but I promise you I have a clear way of explaining it, and we will get to that. Thank you for joining, guys. On the next one, I don't know when it will be, but there will be another. I'll talk to you guys soon.